Hey guys, this is Rock King 3 bringing a live commentary Forza 5, and today what I want to do is my top 10 tracks. And when I say top 10 tracks, that means they are the most enjoyable, the most fair multiplayer, and some of the best running laps to get leaderboard times as well. And first of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the tracks that did not make it. And believe it or not, for me, none of the Bernese Alps made it. There's 6 tracks here. There's reverse and forwards. The reason why these did not make the top 10 is because it is just so broken in the multiplayer. There's so much wall riding, so many cuts, so many wall banging. Unfortunately, it's a very poor multiplayer racing experience. So I did not count any of the Bernese Alps tracks at all. They're all enjoyable. They're fun to run laps. And when you have a clean race, if you have clean racers, this is a really good track. Unfortunately, there are not a lot of clean racers. So let's go through other tracks I did not pick, and we'll go into non-top 10 tracks. Actually, what I'm going to do is just go into the sets, because there will be one track from like this one. You'll see that I'll pick out one track, and I'll tell you why I picked that track over the other two or whatever the number is. These 3 Toyota Grand Prix tracks, I actually did not enjoy these that much. It wasn't that they're kind of bad for multiplayer because they're very narrow. There's a lot of wrecking. They're really not that enjoyable to run laps on to beat times. So I was a little disappointed with this particular set of tracks. Every once in a while I run it, but I mean, these are really short and this one's kind of goofy long. Just so you know why I don't like those. Believe it or not, none of the Nürburgrings made it for me. It's kind of a fun track. It's kind of a narrow track. It's kind of difficult to play multiplayer because there's so many areas of the track that are so narrow. You hit the wall a lot and then you get sucked into the grass. The Forza physics with the grass seem to try to suck you in, and once you get a tire off the tarmac, it seems like it pulls you in. These have not been really fun to run really long races with low class cars, and kind of hectic when you run like a P class car or something like that on it. So overall, I just don't think this one works very well in this particular game. Like I said, the lower class is too long and the upper class is too fast. Let's see. This one's going to kind of shock a few people because this used to be some of my favorite tracks, but Road Atlanta. And I don't mind running laps on this. I definitely know how to run this track, very comfortable with it. The problem again with this is there's a lot of wrecks in the first corner. There's a lot of people that cut that after the first turn. You go up to that little S. People cut that. So in multiplayer, and again, unless you have clean racers out there trying to run clean laps, that grass area just becomes a headache. You either get hit if you go wide, you get hit from behind, or if you go around, you get hit on the side. Just a poor setup. They don't penalize people for going through that grass at all, or for making dirty laps either. Let's see. I know there's some more here at the end. Top Gear tracks. There's a lot of them. I actually never really took to these. You'll find that if I'm on your friends list that I don't have a lot of class times on Top Gear tracks. They don't come up a whole lot. They're really short. Really, the only one I wish they would have had was maybe the Top Gear Full. I think that one's pretty enjoyable. Again, the grass physics in Forza 5 has made it so if you get a foot off, you get pulled off quite a bit. Good races in there, and if they're long enough, you end up crossing paths, which is kind of broken too. You just kind of encourage people to hit. These right here are probably my least favorite tracks in this game. They're no fun to run laps on. They're no fun to learn how to make the fastest lap by going through the blue and the red and the yellow and cutting corners. You guys have seen a few of my races. I just get totaled in these races. This is kind of what Forza kind of made it into. This is an arcade game. Doesn't matter if you get clean laps, you don't get a reward for it. You just get hammered in this game. It just becomes a video game, unfortunately. And the last one, even though I do like it quite a bit, didn't make it because I just don't see it working a lot in multiplayer. Probably a lot of wall riding on this one too. This one doesn't reward you quite as much for wall riding. but it's kind of a vague track at the same time. I like a little more strict tracked. So anyway, those are the ones that did not make my top 10. Now, when I come back, you're going to see me on number 10. See you in a sec. All right, and for my number 10, it's going to be the old Le Mans track, the one we get the straightaway. And the reason why I like this one is there's not exactly a lot of great races that go into it, but there are a lot of entertaining, funny moments that go into it. There's a lot of people that take a really fast speed car out here that can't drive it. They'll pass you in the straightaway, but then they'll end up wrecking themselves in the sand at the end. It's actually pretty enjoyable. It's kind of technical, and if you have a car that is for speed and doesn't handle very well, it's kind of fun to try to maneuver it around the track by making quick decisions. Multiplayer races, like I said, not a lot of great races, but a lot of entertainment value to it, just because there's always that guy that is so fast and you watch him buzz by you in the straightaway, but he has no brakes and no handling, and he goes straight off the track. And besides, who wouldn't like to go top speed, because you'll find the top speed of your car and take it out on this long straightaway. This one has a slight edge over the other Le Mans Le Sarthe, the one that has the 2 turns in the straightaway here. And I'm going to run out of gears. And I really never did take to the other track, the little bit smaller Grand Prix one. Looks like I am going to max out. So this is number 10. We'll see you at number 9. Alright, that brings us to number 9. I'm going to do Catalunya National. Catalunya National is a good sized track, technical, difficult track to master, and people find all sorts of ways to make this work for them. I really like anything that rewards you to be a little bit smoother driver, and just make sure you know all your angles and get your car set up right. This track is one of those that rewards people that sets up those cars very, very well. There's not a lot of cuts in here, so for the most part, this is a pretty fair track. Again, this is the middle track. The reason why I didn't pick the school one is, one, it's a little bit too small. There's a lot more wrecking that goes into there, and the second reason is, for the same reason I don't like the larger track, is it has that cutout right after the straightaway where it takes a right and takes a left and then takes another right. People cut that middle left out so bad. It's pretty disappointing. This track, and actually all these tracks, are pretty fun to run laps on. It's just something that you don't have grass problems, you don't get sucked out. You just have to make sure you have a car that handles these side strips pretty well. And overall, I think this one's really enjoyable. And I think they did a really good job with the stands here and the art and the colors. And I don't think this one quite has nearly as much sun glare as the other ones do. Anyway, that's number 9. Alright, that brings us to number 8. And I'm currently on the Sebring Foal. That is my number 8. And the reason why I like it so much is it has a lot of technical aspects to it. It has a lot of fast speeds, good braking, just setting up for the next turn. You're always planning for that next turn. What is the fastest way through the track? I have a lot of really good multiplayer races on this. This track's a little bit long, to make it a 3 or 4 car race, but there's oftentimes you have that 1, maybe 2 people that push you really hard, and you just have to outdrive them. There's no cuts in here. There's nothing you can do really to. There's one cut, but overall, I think this is a really good track. It would have scored a little bit higher had it not had the one cut I was just about to say it didn't have, and I'm about coming up to it, and I'll show you. But this is probably my favorite Sebring out of the 3 Sebring tracks. And to be honest, out of the 3 Sebring tracks, there's not a bad one at all. I think they're all really good. The one area that I was going to talk about right here is right here. I see a lot of people doing this right there, taking that whole turn out, that rumble strip in multiplayer, and it's really disappointing. But other than that, this is a great track. It would have scored a lot higher if it wasn't for that area I just went through. It has a great starting line, it has a great finish line. Just all around, it's a great track, and I've enjoyed it, I think, since Forza 2. I think it's been around for a really long time. But that is my number 8. See you next one. And for number 7, we have Spa. This is absolutely one of the most beautiful, best tracks, most enjoyable tracks to run laps on, no matter what the class is. Good multiplayer racing. So why is this only number 7? And then it does stand alone. This is the only track variation they have for Spa. I'm going to go through the good and the bads. I mean, this part of the track is just fun. The starting is usually a big old wreck fest. This part is pretty crazy. You have to have your car set up to turn. This track you can do a lot of testing on, and it'll tell you what is right and what is wrong with your car. Oh, this is really slow. Probably should grab a faster car, huh? This is really fun because it has areas where you have to have speed in your car. Otherwise, you lose a lot of time if you don't have a fast car in here. I love these cuts. I love these dirt parts right here where it shows you where you need to go. And you can cut off so much time if you just follow where the wear marks are at. So a lot of this first part is really good. I know the start is sometimes a big cluster, which is kind of disappointing. But again, we went from a speed track now to this really tight handling hairpin. It's just a great track with a lot of variations. Alright, so that was a lot of the good. So unfortunately, here comes some of the bad. So you remember when I said a multiplayer, I like it when people can race clean? Well, here's a perfect example where people can't race clean. They will go way out here, and let me get out there. And their car may or may not be set up right, but they are just flying. They're not hitting the brakes, but they stay out here. That is a huge old safe area that unfortunately is beneficial to a lot of people. If you made that big a mistake on any other track, you'd be in the wall. Again, I love this part right here. This sand is dangerous around here. This track kind of scares you into driving really clean, really smooth, because you cannot touch that sand out there. If you touch it at all, you lose all your speed. So again, we're going to go a whole lap here because this track has just great, probably the best parts of Forza 5 in it, and unfortunately it has a couple of the worst. So this part I'm okay with. A lot of people do take this pretty wide out here. I'm in D class, so this really isn't tricky. But they'll go out here. Again, another safe zone that's kind of disappointing it's there. And then here comes the worst. Absolute worst part. I can just go straight through here. Why would you bother to put any turns in this multiplayer? People just go straight through there. I lose 2-3 seconds just going through that one section. So one of my favorite tracks they have, they just have some pieces on it that's really, really broken. All right, on to the next one. All right, number 6, Laguna Seca, Mazda Laguna Seca. Now this is going to surprise a lot of people because Laguna Seca used to be probably my favorite racetrack in Forza 2, and it's just been a great staple all along. It is a fun multiplayer. It has some downsides to it. So back when it was Forza 2, there was a lot more front-wheel drives and a lot slower cars that handled a little bit better. So when that was not the smallest track, it was actually pretty fun to get out and kind of stretch your legs a little bit. Now from the ones that I play, this is one of the longer tracks, or one of the shorter tracks. And I tend to only have like maybe 1 or 2 cars because cars that are good on Laguna Seca aren't necessarily good on other tracks. So what I used to actually tune on Laguna Seca because it was kind of the middle of the road track. Now it's become kind of the smaller of all of the tracks. I know there's some top gears and stuff like that. But this is a really good track. I do like it. If I ever went to visit a real track, I live in Nebraska, and this is in California, I would visit this one right here. Love to watch any kind of event on it. Now, this track is a little bit narrow. It's a little bit difficult in multiplayer. If you get wrecked one time, especially in that first straightaway, you have a hard time passing everybody one by one. At the same time, it makes for some of the best racing because you race so tight, so close, and you try to take every inch you can when somebody makes a mistake. So that is number 6. And for number 5, we have Silverstone International. I love this track. I love how wide it is. It makes for really good multiplayer races. It's fun to be precise at the same time when you're just running laps. There's just a lot of good things to this track. I like this better than the other two. One of them is a lot longer. It's just really ridiculously too long. And the other one's is pretty short. And I actually do like the short one as well. That would have been a close one to step in front of this particular track. But I love the speeds you can carry on these tracks, and I love how wide it is. And it's one of those that, even though you don't have to be super precise, when you are precise, it's very, very rewarding. I love the fact that you have to have a little bit of handling on your car, and you have to have some good braking, like right through here. You got to have that set up so you can make this S-turn. Watch a lot of speed cars just take themselves out into the sand. It's one of those advanced tracks where you have to have really good throttle control too to keep your car under control. And see how quick that is? The lap is over. Again, great multiplayer, fun to run laps, fun to be precise. You can throw a little bit of speed into it. Just has a little bit of everything. And this is one of those tracks that I like to race no matter what the class is. You know, D class all the way up to S class. Just because there's a lot of space, good multiplayers. Alright, that will do it for number 5. Alright, number 4 on the list is Bathurst. This one probably had contention of being number 1 up there, like with a Spa, like when I was talking about Spa as well being a top track. And number 4 is a really high accolade, I think, for Bathurst. And again, these are all my opinions. But what a fun track. You have speed, you have this part up here where you got to be very technical. One of the most enjoyable things to watch is, if you guys know who Raceboy77 is, watch him run the top part of Bathurst. It is crazy how fast he goes through these sections. Now, a lot of times you give up a little bit of handling to have speed because there's 2 really long straightaways. And you don't want to lose too much speed out there, but you still got to be able to get through this section of the track fairly quickly. Not exactly how I'm doing it. But you don't want to limit yourself on top speed either. So this is a really good combination of setting up a car to be really fast, but yet have a little bit of handling, a little bit of braking so you can control it. Very rewarding track. A lot of good races too. This has probably been the track that's probably gave some pretty good races. Even though there's these 2 real long straightaways, the invention of passing on this track is crazy. Sometimes it's a little too difficult and you see a lot of ramming. But overall, this track is a solid number 4 for me. I think it could be a number 2 if it wasn't for the start of every race is so tight. The very first straightaway where you take off is so narrow, and it's not very long before you hit your first almost full turn. So unfortunately, that's probably what dropped it down a little bit for me. Otherwise, this would be one of the top. And there's another factor right there too, a little bit of that Australian sun glare. Anyway, that's number 4. Alright, at number 3 we have the Indianapolis GP track. I absolutely love this track. It is fun, it's wide open. There's this little grass cut right there that I didn't hit, that people hit a little bit, but you can actually keep your lap clean even though you have majority of your car into that grass. So I don't mind that. When it dirties your lap and people cut it in multiplayer, then it kind of drives me crazy. But this one has really good sections in it. I love this part right up here. If you can outdrive somebody right through here, you can make up a lot of time, even though they have a pretty good lead on you. Again, this is a really good spot where you can make up time, because once you get out of here in good shape, you can actually end up gaining a lot more speed at the end of this track. Really, really enjoyable. Really technical, and still you got to have a good amount of speed too. But you just can't, this is one of those tracks you just cannot give up the handling for it, because there's just too much low speed, fast turns here. Really, really enjoy it. Brought out the Australian car on the American track. Should have took out the Australian car on the Australian track last time. But I love this. I love the fact that you get to go full out with your car. Fastest car around this section wins. A lot of good finishes. I've seen people have speed cars that fall behind in the turning section and, you know, just beat somebody right here or just lose to somebody right in here. Great fun. Great track. I take this over the oval. I do enjoy the oval, but of course it's just left turns. So that is number 3. That brings us up to number 2. Number 2 is going to be Prague Full. There is not a bad track out of this bunch of Prague tracks. They are beautiful. They are fun. There's no real cutting, no real cheating on this track. No wall riding. It's not a reward for driving poorly. You just have to drive hard and clean on this track. I picked this one because I enjoy the longer tracks more so than the shorter ones, and I also enjoy attacking the city from this side versus the reverse side. They're both fun, they're both challenging, but I enjoy this one a little bit more. The track is really pretty, a lot of details. I've wrecked a few times, and I've seen a lot of the faces and a lot of the crowd and a lot of the signs. It's one of those you really don't notice everything in this track until you kind of slow down and take a look at everything. It's kind of crazy. All the guys waving the flags, all the referees, judges, all the signs, just stuff everywhere. It's so cool. This one's a little bit more of a handling track. I call it more of a momentum track. I call Mazda Laguna Seca more of a handling track. This one, you just want to keep good handling, keep your momentum going, and try to get the best time possible that way. I've had some epic wrecks. I've gone from first to 5th. I've gone from 5th to 1st with the wreck in here. This part has been so fun to try to perfect. It's so challenging. Yep, look at that, just like that. Great races on this track. I've seen some people step up with some really quick cars that can make those turns really well still. But overall, it takes this type of car, a little bit of handling, a good acceleration, and a good throttle control on the car. Best track, good set of 4 tracks. Hard to pick between them. Just enjoy this one a little bit more. So that is number 2. For my number 1 track, it is Road America. That's all we had left, so if you guys figured it out, it is Road America. However, it is not the Road America that you think. This is not Road America Long. This is actually the alternate route of Road America. I do like both the tracks a lot, but for multiplayer, I like this alternate one a little bit better. And the reason behind that is if Road America has kind of become a track where people just bring out super fast cars, have a little bit of handling, but not a great deal. They're just super, super fast. So it takes some of the technical piece out of it a little bit. And a lot of times the people that win those races are just the ones that have the fastest cars that aren't necessarily the best racers. So by throwing this alternate in here, it kind of breaks up that last really long straightaway. By breaking up that straightaway, you do tend to have a little bit more of an advantage if you can make some turns, have a car that handles a little bit, and not only that, you got to make it through that section. With the speed car with no handling, you have a really hard time getting through that section. As far as the other Road America tracks go, I don't actually care for them all that much. I don't race them a lot, but I definitely like these long versions the best. Enjoy the track. I think it's beautiful. It's fun because it's wide. It's good for multiplayer. It's fun to race, just leaderboard attack. One of the monthly challenges was on here, and I ran a good solid hour just trying to get a good track time on it. So really had a good time with it. I love this elevation. We seem to have a lot of good races on it. I think a lot of people are just good at it. Anyway, that is my number 1. My opinion, of course. Feel free to put in the comments what your top 10 are. Tell me if you agree or disagree. I have my kind of reasons why I like them and don't like them. Sometimes it's just because of the way people use the tracks themselves. This Road America track for me, number 1, is just one you play it straight up. There's no cheating here. I like it a lot. Alright guys, thanks a lot for watching my top 10. Catch you guys in the next video. Later.